Hello and welcome back to our introductory course for JavaScript. In lesson 5, we're going to be talking about a very important topic in JavaScript, which is arrays and objects. Arrays and objects are one of the most powerful things in JavaScript, so I recommend you get a good grasp of arrays and objects. So first, let's understand what an array in JavaScript is. An array is a special type of variable that can hold multiple values at the same time. You can think of an array as a list. To declare an array, you use square brackets and you separate each item in the array with a comma. So just like when you're declaring a normal variable, you simply type var and then your variable name. So let's say fruits equals brackets and then apple, banana, orange, cherry. So once we have our array set up like this, we can go ahead and manipulate the data. But first, let's go ahead and see what happens when we console log this entire array. So let's go ahead and run node less5.js. And as you can see, it simply prints out the entire array. Now what if we just want to print out one object in the array? We can simply put brackets after fruits, and let's say we want to access banana. So let's go ahead and put a 1 here and type in load. And as you can see, it prints out banana. If you noticed, an array starts out with 0 and it progresses to 1, 2, 3. It doesn't start out with 1 and progress, but it starts out with 0. So be sure you remember that. We can also modify things in an array. So let's say we want to change banana to peach. So let's go ahead and set fruits and then our index, which is 1, equals peach. And now let's go ahead and console log our fruits and let's see what it displays. And as you can see, it displays peach because I changed the value from banana to peach. Now let's say I want to iterate over this array. Iterating is essentially going over every single object in an array. So to iterate in an array, we're going to use the for loop, which we learned in lesson 3. So let's simply set it up by doing for and then declare our variable I, set it to 0. Then let's go ahead and set our condition. If I is less than fruits.length, which will go ahead and get the length of this an array. And now let's put our incrementer I++. And now let's go ahead and console log every single fruit with its index. So essentially this will print out every single fruit in the array in a separate line. So let's go ahead and test it out. So as you can see, it prints out every single item in the array: apple, peach, orange, and cherry. So now that we have a decent understanding of arrays in JavaScript, let's go ahead and move on to objects. So while arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable, objects allow us to store collections of key value pairs. In other words, objects let us store values in a structured manner. You can create an object using curly braces, and the content of the object is written as key value pairs separated by commas. Each key value pair is written as key, colon, and then your value, where key is the property name and value is the actual value of your object. So let's go ahead and create a student object. Let's declare a variable called student equals curly braces. Let's set the first name of this to Sid. Let's set the age to an integer to 17. Let's set the grade to 12. And let's go ahead and set the last name to Dougal. And that'll be the last item in this object. And now, just for the sake of curiosity, let's go ahead and print out the actual student object and see what happens. So node less5.js. So as you can see, it just prints out the entire object going from the first name all the way to the last name. But what if we want to access a certain variable inside this object? So to do this, we can simply type a dot and we can select any property of this object. So let's go ahead and select the grade. Now let's go ahead and run the code. And as you can see, it prints out 12, which is the grade that we set in the student object. Now let's say for whatever reason I want to change the first name or any item in this object to something else. We can simply do student.age, for example, equals 50. And now let's go ahead and print out the age of the student. And as you can see, it changes to 50. So now that we understand the basics of objects, let's go ahead and create a nested object for a school. So we can simply do this by doing var school equals curly braces. And then the difference here is that we'll have to set an object inside the object. So let's go ahead and create a student object and set the properties of first name Sid, last name Dogo. Let's go ahead and change that spelling. And then let's go ahead and create a teacher object inside school. And let's go ahead and create the first name as John, last name Doe. Let's go ahead and create a janitor object inside school with the first name of Jane and the last name of Doe. And now you might be wondering, how can we print out one of these first names or last names of a student, teacher, or janitor? So to access one of these objects or items in this object, it's pretty simple and straightforward, similar to how we console logged the age in the student object. So let's go ahead and put console.log school, and then let's go ahead and access our student object. And then let's go ahead and access our first name, and let's go ahead and label it as the student's first name is plus. Now let's go ahead and create another one. Let's go ahead and access the janitor's last name. The janitor's last name is school.janitor.lastname. And now let's go ahead and run the code. And as you can see, it says the student's first name is Sid, which is correct, and the janitor's last name is Doe, which is also correct. So now that you have a basic understanding of arrays and objects, I want you to try to create your own array and objects and play around with accessing and modifying their values. For example, you could create an array of your favorite movies or an object that represents your best friend, etc. Arrays and objects are a crucial part of JavaScript as they allow you to handle multiple related values in an organized way. So be sure to practice arrays and objects until you feel comfortable. In the next lesson, we will wrap up with a final project where you will apply everything that you learned so far in this JavaScript course, so I'll see you then.